Good afternoon. We're going to bring this TRPA Regional Planning Committee to order. Today's date is Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. It is 3:15 by my calendar, by 3:16 by somebody else's watch. That being stated, at this point in time, we do not have a quorum. Some members may be calling in. We're going to go ahead, though, and allow the presentation to occur so that the board that is here will be able to hear this information and try to relay it to our colleagues and get a better understanding of all the hard work that has been done by the staff to this effect. So with that, we'll now go over the rules for any remote or in-person meeting for the day. Remote committee members, please raise your hand to speak and mute your microphones unless speaking in order to help cut down the background noise. I'd like to ask that all remote members turn on your camera if at all possible. Remote members may not use the chat box to make any comments or to have any sidebar conversations. If you are viewing the webinar on a personal computer in the room, please ensure that your microphone and speakers are turned off so as to prevent any audio feedback into the room. Members of the public who have joined us in person, please raise your hands at the appropriate time for public comment, and you'll be called to the front to speak. Committee members who are in person, please raise your hands if you wish to comment, state your name and speak clearly into the microphone in front for you. If you are viewing the webinar on a personal computer, please ensure that your microphone and speakers are turned off, again, to prevent that audio feedback within this room. The first item on the agenda is public comment for this period for any items listed on the agenda. Any members of the public wishing to address the committee on the agenda, either in person or on the phone, can either come forward if you're here in person. Seeing none, we will then go to the remote aspect of this. If you're online and wish to raise your hand on the Zoom feature or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you'll be called on and unmuted by the TRPA staff members. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. This comment period is reserved for items on the agenda. Comments on other matters may be redirected to the public interest comment period before the adjournment of this meeting. And since there's nobody in the room.
Mr. Chair, we now have a quorum.
We now have a quorum. So do we need to call a quorum, or I can just determine that there's a quorum based upon? We'll go ahead and do a roll call real quick.
Ms. Aldine?
Here.
Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Mr. Hennigan has recused.
Here.
Mr. Keykefer?
Here.
Ms. Loomer? Mr. Settlemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, we'll return to where we're at under public comment. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to step forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll go online. Is there anyone online who wishes to speak at this time?
There are no hands raised online to comment.
Okay. With that, we will close this session of public comment. We will have one more towards the end of this meeting. With that, we will go to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. With that, the agenda has been approved and posted. Approval of the minutes. We are now on agenda item 3, the approval of the minutes. We have a draft set of minutes from the July 23, 2025 meeting on page 69 of your packet. Does any member of this committee wish to make any changes? If not, we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented or as amended if necessary. So with that, is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as posted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. With that, we'll then go, brings us to agenda number 4, discussion of the possible recommendations for approval of the Placer County Individual Parcel Evaluation System, IPES, buildable line. Information on this item can be found on page 197. We will turn it over to Julie to present this item. Julie Roll. With that, go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. My name is Julie Roll. I'm a senior planner in the Permitting and Compliance Department, and I'm here today to present the Placer County IPES line analysis. IPES stands for Individual Parcel Evaluation System, and it's really is a key tool to ensure that development stays within regional limits while encouraging preservation of some of the basin's most sensitive land. Next slide. TRPA adopted IPES as part of the 1987 regional plan as an alternative to the Bailey Land Capability System for evaluating the suitability of parcels for development. There was a lot of concern about declining water quality during this time, and there were still more than 10,000 vacant residential lots. So IPES was created really more accurately evaluate those lots to figure out which ones were appropriate for development. IPES applies only to single-family residential development, and the Bailey Land Capability System, which was developed in the early 1970s, is still used for evaluating parcels for multifamily, commercial, and other land uses. Under IPES, properties are awarded points in 8 categories based on a detailed field evaluation, where teams of experts look at things such as soil permeability, topography, the influence of microclimates, and other factors that tell us how prone to an erosion a parcel is and how well it could be stabilized if it were developed. So the image on the right-hand side of the screen is just an example of one of the original IPES evaluation forms. So you can kind of get an idea of the things that we look at in the field. IPES scores range from 0 to 1,150. And when the program was first adopted, the minimum buildable score for any parcel in any jurisdiction was 726. So we refer to that as the IPES line or the buildable line. So you'll hear me say those kind of interchangeably. So any property with a score of 726 or higher was eligible to apply for building allocation as of 1989. IPES was designed so that this buildable line would lower over time as jurisdictions meet water quality and conservation goals. Next slide. And I just want to give a little bit more context so you guys can see what we're talking about or get an idea of what the different scoring looks like under IPES. The photo on the left shows a property with an IPES score of 896. It received a high score because it's very flat. It has well-draining soil. Access to the property would be, minimal grading. It's not near the lake. It's not near a stream environment zone, so among other favorable factors. Now, the parcel in the middle has an IPES score of 675. And as you can see, the grade's a little bit steeper. Access to or development would require more extensive grading. And overall, it's just a little bit more prone to erosion. And right now that is the 675 is below the cutoff in Placer County for buildable lots. So as of now, this property is not buildable. Now on the right-hand side of the screen, you see a photo of a parcel with an IPES score of 0. And that indicates that it's 100% stream environment zone. And this is determined by high groundwater, wet variant plant species, certain soil types, things like that. A 0 score cannot be increased, so this property will never be eligible for development or any parcel with a 0 score. Okay, next slide, please. 5 findings must be made to lower the IPES line in any jurisdiction as outlined in Chapter 53 of the Code of Ordinances. Each jurisdiction must demonstrate progress on specific environmental and conservation goals before additional parcels can become eligible for development. Through our analysis, TRPA finds that Placer County has met the requirements of each of these findings as described in detail in the staff report. And all the findings are on the screen for you. Next slide, please. I do want to just touch specifically on finding number 5, because this has been the primary barrier to lowering the IPES line in Placer County. Finding 5 requires that the current number of sensitive parcels divided by the number of sensitive parcels as of January 1st, 1986, not exceed 20%. So we call this the vacant lot equation. So in 1986, Placer County identified 1,667 vacant sensitive parcels. So in order to make this finding, more than 1,300 parcels needed to be retired or otherwise removed from that inventory of sensitive lots. So that's the numerator of this equation here. Parcels are removed from the numerator through acquisition by public agencies, retirement through the allocation assignment program, increasing IPES scores through the limited incentive program, voluntary lot mergers, and other mechanisms. Placer County has taken longer than expected to meet the vacant lot equation for a couple of reasons. As the chart on the left shows, that when the program first was adopted in the early 90s, parcels were being retired pretty quickly, around 89 per year. Then acquisition funds started drying up essentially. And over time, the rate slowed to about 25 per year once we got to around 2009. So this has really caused a delay in reducing the number of sensitive lots, or again, the numerator of the equation. Another factor that is somewhat unique to Placer County is the common practice of having one assessor parcel number, APN, with multiple legal lots kind of embedded within. So how this works is that each of these lots can be assigned their own separate APN. So they're essentially split out into their own parcel, and then they can apply to get an IPS evaluation. And when that happens, some of the evaluations come back with a score below 726. So this is actually increasing the number of sensitive lots, making that numerator go up instead of down, which is what we want to see. So today, the number of sensitive parcels in Placer County is 322, which is 19.3% of the 1986 total. So at this time, finding number 5, it has been met. Next slide. Now, this chart shows the IPS line changes in the different jurisdictions over time. So in green and orange, you see Douglas and Washoe County, and they were the first to meet the required findings in 1994, and they lowered their IPS line. And then there were several incremental changes over time, and then both counties reached a score of 1 in 2006, which means that any property with an IPS score of 1 or higher is eligible for single-family development. And each of these incremental changes were approved by governing board action. El Dorado County is shown in dark blue on the right side of the chart. They made the findings first in 2006 to lower their IPS line, and then they also reached a score of 1 in 2006. So again, a score of 1 or higher in El Dorado is eligible for development. Now, Placer County is shown at the top of the chart in light blue. And as you can see, there have been no changes to the IPS line, and the minimum buildable score has remained at 726 ever since the program's adoption. And this is primarily due to that vacant lot equation, which I just discussed. Now, although there haven't been any changes in Placer County, annual progress updates were provided to the governing board until around 2010, at which time it was decided that we weren't going to bring this item back until the analysis showed that the findings could be made. Staff has been monitoring the progress of the IPS line, and we bring it forward now because we have found that all 5 findings can be made. Next slide, please. Based on the 5 required findings and the procedure set forth in Chapter 53 of the Code of Ordinances, staff recommends lowering the IPS line in Placer County from 726 to 702 and requests that the Regional Planning Committee recommend approval to the full governing board at the December 2025 meeting. Staff anticipates that this item and your recommendation will be on the consent agenda next month. We estimate that approximately 76 parcels could become eligible for development as a result of this proposed change. Now, keep in mind that this proposed action is to lower the IPS buildable line only. It does not include rescoring any properties or changing the scoring system in any way. The IPS line simply determines which parcels are eligible to apply for building allocation. The number of allocations available and how they're distributed by Placer County would not be affected by this action. And finally, lowering the IPS line doesn't change the fact that to build, any eligible parcel would need the building allocation, development rights, and they would have to go through the standard permitting process. So each project would be individually reviewed for compliance with all applicable regulations involving land coverage, zoning, water quality, BMPs, height, density, and so forth. And next slide. With that, that concludes my kind of brief overview, but if you'd like me to go into more detail on any of these topics, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One question I had is, does IPS score change over time, or is it a one-time and done, or let's say you have a fire event?
That's a great question. The IPS score, yes and no. You typically, yes, once you get an IPS score, those do not get reevaluated. There is a little bit of wiggle room in one of the categories. Up to 50 points is awarded for it's called the need for water quality projects. So those points are awarded as any jurisdiction, Placer County in this case, completes water quality projects through like the EIP. So as those projects are completed, if it's in the direct project area where a parcel is, then we can add points to that property up to 50 points. And that's specified in the code. There's, a whole list in the technical appendices in chapter 53 on how that works.
And
Otherwise, no.
Mr. Chair, if I could add, if you have a score that's not a 0, is that correct, Julie?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Going back, a score of 0 doesn't increase. It's not subject to changes with the water quality points or anything else.
Thank you for that. Is there any additional questions or comments from any of the members?
Go ahead, Shelley. Oh, I was just gonna ask, I think I'm trying to kind of understand the whole APN versus legal parcel issue a little bit better. I know in the Kings Beach area with the original layout of the grid lines and the small parcels that we have in that area, that is actually a pretty, well, I would ask, is that a significant factor in this overall equation? Is there a remedy for that you think would have a recalculation effect?
Well, I think that it was thought, and if you look back at all old staff reports for Placer County, it was thought that this was the primary reason. As we've done more analysis, I think our opinion has kind of shifted that it really had a lot more to do with just the declining rate of parcels being retired, but it really is a combination. And it's not that it's, a problem or it's inherently bad. It was just something that wasn't foreseen, I think, when the IPES program was adopted. So I think, at this point, it might not matter anymore since we've kind of gotten to this point where we've retired enough and made the findings, but anyone want to add? Thank you, Heather.
Hi, Heather Beckman. I am a senior planner with Placer County, but as many of you may know, I used to work for TRPA in the Land Capability and IPES program. So I think I can speak to it a little bit too, coming from both the TRPA side and the Placer side. TRPA deals more with parcels. And so on the California side of things and the California Subdivision Map Act, we deal with the legal lots of record. And so I think that's where the lots being able to get their own new smaller legal lots of record embedded in one parcel number can then be pulled out and given their own parcel number, changing that equation. Many years ago, I was thinking about this as I drove down today, about 18 years ago, when Tim Hagan was here and George Rosasco was with Placer County. We actually sat in the library conference room and tried to figure out if there was a way we could sort of recalibrate and adjust for the parcel versus lots sort of disconnect. And unfortunately, because of all of the litigation that occurred around IPES back in the 1987, 1989 timeframe, the work we did with the California Attorney General at that time said, no, we really can't adjust anything. And we had to wait until this incredible point in time where we've actually met the vacant lot equation. So hopefully that helps.
So let me just follow up on that. So moving forward, I think the ultimate goal in my mind would be to get to 1. And is this a factor that we need to keep working towards to continue to lower the line?
Yeah, the plan is moving forward that we will bring this back annually. And the line, as you've probably read in the staff report, it's lowered based on the number of allocations that are used in Placer County over the previous year. So next, I guess it won't be 2026, 2027, we would look at the number of allocations that were used in Placer County in 2026. And then we would, go through this, step again, and then ideally lower the IPES line based on that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
About that, Ms. Aldine?
Julie, you may not know the answer to this question. How many of the 76 parcels that are now eligible to apply for evaluation still have development rights? Do you know?
I'm not sure that we looked into that. I'm looking at Ken because he did the heavy lifting on the analysis.
Because I can imagine some people got frustrated with their inability to develop those lights and lots, and they have sold the development right.
Yeah, this is Ken Caseman with the Reporting and Accountability Department. I didn't look specifically at that, but I can before next month's meeting.
Okay.
I think in general, most of these parcels likely do still have their development rights because a lot of these property owners have held on to them with the intent to develop in the
Mhm.
future. And so I think most likely, I would say probably over 90% of them would still have it. And once they are eligible, then they could transfer in a unit if they needed to do so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any additional questions from any members, either here or online? Seeing none, we can entertain the motion in order for the motion to pass. An affirmative vote of a majority of the quorum present is required. Is there any committee member who would like to make the first motion, at this time to the governing board to required findings that are in attachment A or on the board?
Yeah, sure. So I would move approval that we recommend to the governing board approval of the Placer County individual parcel evaluation system buildable line reduction.
We have a motion. Any discussion from the committee or any comments or questions?
Just while we're here, let's just do the motions like on the side, 2 motions to do the first one to recommend
Right.
making the required findings.
So we need to vote on the first one,
Yeah.
then move to the second.
Vote on
Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and pass this over to Margie as this requires a roll call vote.
Ms. Aldine,
So we're voting on the motion to recommend to the governing board to make the required findings as shown in attachment A, and my vote is yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer, Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair, that motion passes.
Thank you. Now for the second motion, a motion to recommend approval of the lowering of the Placer County IPES line from 726 to 702 and adoption of the proposed resolution included as attachment B.
I'll move approval.
Properly moved. With that being said, we have a motion. Any discussion from the committee? Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll pass it over to Marjorie for a roll call vote once again.
Ms. Aldine,
Yes.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer, Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair, and the motion passes.
Thank you. With that, we'll then move on to the upcoming topics. That brings us to agenda item number 5. We'll go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Hester, or actually, I
Actually,
think it's Julie Reagan.
Ms. Reagan, I'll sub in for Mr. Hester. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Chair of RPC. I will just keep this brief. We don't have another Regional Planning Committee meeting scheduled. Of course, that's subject to change until March, but in March, we'll be hearing a preview of the Myers area plan. So the update, it's called the TED plan. So the Tahoe El Dorado County area plan, which they have been working on diligently. And it will go beyond just the community of Myers. I'm sorry, I should say the whole county outside of Myers, all the way up to the Placer County line. And so we'd had a lot of discussion around the Fallen Leaf Lake properties, and the county has been very busy engaging the community around that. So that's coming to you in March. And that
Okay.
is all I have.
With that, does any committee member at this time have any questions about that, of the upcoming topics? Okay, that being said, we can go ahead and move on with the agenda as that is an informational item only. With that, committee member comments. On agenda item number 6, does any committee member have any comments at this time? Seeing none, we will then move on. Our final matter of business is our general public interest comment period. Any member of the general public wishing to address the Regional Planning Committee on any item listed or not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Individuals or groups who have already commented on items listed on the agenda are not permitted to comment on the same topic. The Regional Planning Committee can only deliberate or act on items listed on the posted agenda. To ensure proper public notice, committee members typically won't respond to comments on unlisted topics except to correct factual errors, ask for staff clarification, or request the topic be placed on a future agenda item. Finally, comments must be related to the matters that are within our jurisdiction as the agency. If any member of the public wishes to speak at this time, please raise your hand, either in person or by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you'll be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. Is there any member of the public present that wishes to comment at this time? Seeing none, We'll see if anyone out there in radio land wishes to participate.
There are no hands raised online to comment.
Okay, with that, we'll then close the public comment period. And with that, we're only looking for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
It's been properly moved to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed can stay here indefinitely. We're done.